I think we've all experienced this phenomenon where we talk about something and we think our phone overhears us. All of a sudden, we start seeing ads for it all over Facebook and Instagram. Start seeing promoted posts. It's a phenomenon that we try to make happen behind the scenes. But
hey, Sean, I take offense to that.
You would. All the lead gen folks, I assume, take offense as well. But Sean.
I love you too, Colton.
Colton didn't offer me enough to take this slide out of the deck, unfortunately. So it's staying in. But
he snuck it in on me, or I would have.
So Jamie, have you seen this guy before? Anna, have you seen this guy? Dude with sign.
I might or might not be a follower.
Pretty straightforward description. He's one of my favorites. He actually was kind of a guerrilla marketing scheme that was cooked up. So he's kind of an influencer plant a little bit by Jerry Media, who they actually ran the Fyre Fest. This is one of their more successful campaigns. So this one went a little bit better. But yeah, so to get somebody's attention on social media, you have to do specific things. You have to be engaging. And Jamie, what are some of those things like that get you to follow somebody?
Well, first of all, my opinion in this is kind of irrelevant in the moment. So let's back up a step and think for a minute about who you follow. What makes you follow them? Like, who's your guilty pleasure follow? What do you follow? Dana, who do you follow? Like, you're having a bad day, your go-to thing is? Okay, but who? Okay.
I was put onto a great guilty follow yesterday by Crystal. She said you should follow Kitty Purry, Katy Perry's feline friend.
Hey, Parker White, who's your guilty pleasure follow? And I only did that because he has a mouthful.
Yeah, pull up your Instagram right now. We'll put it up on screen for everybody.
Okay, Ryan Blackburn, since Parker's eating, who's your guilty pleasure follow?
Okay, what about like Seinfeld 2000? That's another good one.
Okay, so who follows like characters from The Office? Let's ask the ultimate question there. Oh, come on, guys.
Nobody listens to the podcast, the Ladies in the Office podcast out there. Anna, what about you? What are some of your favorite follows?
Okay, I'm kind of boring, so I follow a lot of experts in the field, and then guilty pleasures, I guess, would be Harry Potter stuff and like geeky stuff. So yeah.
When you said Harry, I was wondering if you were going to say Styles.
No.
I didn't know it was coming after that, but yeah, no, we gotta love Harry Potter. Which house would you be, do you think?
Either Slytherin or
oh wow,
Ravenclaw, because I love learning. I love going to school, so that's probably my house.
I love it. Well, so obviously, things that are in your interest, a show you watch, a book series you read, obviously you follow things like that, or maybe your favorite athlete or musician, but influencers are kind of a different animal. So, this guy does something as simple as hold up funny joke protest signs out in New York. And he's created, several campaigns for brands. He was part of the vaccination campaign. I believe he was invited to the White House actually to hold up a sign on the White House lawn, but he's an interesting guy. But it is crazy how one little viral thing, if it makes you laugh, if it's engaging or it's something inspiring, it really gets you to go along with it, even if it's just something as simple as this. So, influencer marketing is its own thing, but really, we want to flip this on its head where we're coming at this from an angle of all marketing is influencing. And these influencers are just a very public facing example of marketing strategy and getting you to either, be inspired to think about something, whether it's a social cause, whether it's buying a product, whether it's showing what a particular product can do. These people are influencing you in some way, but that's what all marketing is designed to do.
Right. And to an extent, it's the first part of your first touch point in your funnel, or it can be towards the end when we're talking about reviews or someone that's talking about a product that you may or may not be interested in. So influencer has the ability to, as many of our tactics that we discuss on a daily basis, that it moves people through the funnel as one of those digital touch points. So it is becoming a more and more significant part of the marketing mix.
So Jamie, how many followers do you have on Instagram, Facebook, whatever? What do you think your follower count is?
I'm not into the popularity thing, so I honestly
maybe
don't know
maybe a few
point.
hundred. Anna, what about you? Where's your
20, like friends and family? Okay, we'll follow her. Oh.
So why are we talking about influencer marketing? Who are we to talk about this? Who are we? We are the people getting into the nitty gritty, the behind the scenes, building out these campaigns for influencers to execute on.
So, hey, Sean, I like that you chose my profile picture for today. Thank you.
Just had to show you at the rodeo doing a brand activation.
Yeehaw.
I'm surprised you didn't get in the ring yourself. You were in the VIP lounge though.
I might or might not have done the barrel ride.
So you guys have all heard from me and Jamie probably far too much. So Anna, tell us a little bit about yourself and your experience. In my experience with you, we have such great conversations about KPIs, results, conversions, all the numbers. We really love breaking that down, but tell us a little bit more about, what you do on a day-to-day basis and how you come to this influencer marketing discussion.
Sure. So at First Brands Group, we are a conglomerate of all these different brands that cover, we're automotive aftermarket manufacturer. So we have a lot of brands, and what I do is look at the customers, look at their journey, look at what they think, what they feel, and try to get those insights to the right people, close the loop from product to marketing to make those decisions for the business itself to figure out where we're going to go next. What are we missing? What are the gaps? What don't we know about the customer? And what is something that we need to shake? Because automotive aftermarket is very old school. And this was my first kind of foray into automotive aftermarket. So to me, it was a different kind of animal and something that I had a chance to shake up and introduce some new things that we've never done before. And one of them was influencer marketing.
That's awesome. Yeah. And I mean, being someone who's so into insights, that goes right back and feeds right back into strategy. And part of that is figuring out where your message needs to go and what that mix looks like. So after today, what do we want you to come away with about influencer marketing? Everyone has some passing experience with it. I would imagine maybe in the skincare realm or the clothing and fashion realm, but there's so many different levels of influencer marketing. It's not all one thing. It's not all just, hype around fashion and consumer products. There's so many other pieces to the puzzle. So we want to look at how we got to a place where there are seemingly random people with, millions of followers who are, they seem like everyday people, and they're just putting out videos with, paid promotion behind it and branding. These aren't necessarily celebrities. So how did we get here? And, looking at what influencers do, what role are they playing in your ultimate, overall marketing strategy? And what is, the right sizing of an influencer? Like, how do you pick a type or a size? There isn't one single kind of influencer, which, I mean, Jamie's going to get into the difference there a little bit between influencers and brand ambassadors too.
Right on. Keep going, Sean.
All righty. And then, so, again, it's not all consumer products. So how does it compare between consumer and technical? Influencer isn't just posting to Instagram and hoping to get a bunch of likes and a bunch of shares to somebody's story. And then at the end, hopefully, to give a few actionable items for people looking to get into influencer marketing, or people out in the audience who may be planning a campaign where influencer would be a vital and valuable pillar of it. So kind of giving you a nice starting place. So we're going to start off before we get into the educational part of this session. Chris gave you the directions earlier, so you can respond at the link, or you can text Dale Dean 240 to that number to join, and I'll let everyone get up and running in a second here. But our first question today, and this is what I was prompting Jamie with, is, what is the difference between an influencer and a brand ambassador? Maybe, some of you know this. Anna, what do you think the difference is between the two?
I love the D, how fun they are.
So, is it the type of agreement you might enter into them? Is it, enter into with them? Or is it kind of what they do on a day-to-day basis? Or is it just the different platforms they post on? Does it matter, what type of media they're using? Or, simply is it, how fun and engaging they are? And the right answer, we don't have an exact right answer here.
It depends.
The right answer, yeah, it's always, it depends. Right, Jason? No, the answer could also be E, all of the above. The reason Sean keeps kind of punching things at me is as part of the media team, we want to be, as Dale has said all day or the last few days, is immersed, right? So not only do we immerse ourselves in our client's business, but also in the tactics and the mediums that we use. As part of the media team, Lauren and I are both actually brand ambassadors because we do have a decent number of followers on various platforms. And we want to know how this works so we can further help our clients, further grow our capabilities as a department, and also for each of you. So the answer to that is I have contracts with 3 different companies. So in some cases, it is the type of contract that I have. Some of it is my day-to-day or week-to-week, month-to-month responsibilities. Some of it is the platforms, like I'm older, right? So I tend to be more of an influencer or more of a brand ambassador on Facebook. Lauren's kind of go-to platforms are TikTok and Instagram. So then where we post, again, is that medium. And then how fun are we? Well, you guys deal with us on a daily basis. You know that already. So, for us, it's all of the above. But as a brand ambassador, and how many of you guys actually follow like a pro athlete, a celebrity, or whatever, and you've actually engaged with one of their products, right? I mean, come on, guys, it's social commerce. Come on, somebody has bought something through an IG post or whatever, or at least gone to the website and considered purchasing something. Okay, so basically, you see those kinds of things. That's what we do. We post about those products. We hope that you go to those pages and buy those things, whether it's through our code or whatever. And that's kind of the difference between a brand ambassador, right? We're specific to that brand. We have an exclusivity contract that, like, one of the brands that I rep is retired WNBA, let me try that again. WNBA players is called the Playa Society, and it's about empowering women. So there are other such brands. I can't have a post that has one of those other brands associated with that. So that's the difference between being a brand ambassador and an influencer, where that influencer is going to be more, yes, they're going to talk about a product, but it's going to be a little bit more organic in its nature. And it's going to be more like talking about the industry or the market or whatever, versus being so product specific.
And if you don't approach an influencer in the right way, you lose a little bit of your control, and they can even trash your product if they want to. We have seen it happen before.
I mean, on a scale of like fearlessness and braveness, I'm pretty high, but even I won't reach that level. But I have seen other brand ambassadors or influencers that will screen capture a really terrible offer and then post that from a brand, and that kind of sends a negative message. I think that looks as bad on the influencer as it does on the brand personally. But yes, and offering just a product, or like something that makes me laugh, is when I get someone that says, hey, if you'll try my product, I'll give you 20% off. Well, really? Or it'll help you get your name out there. Yeah, not so much. So it's kind of like a show me the money, or give me some swag, or something along that line, or give me an actual product that I can truly test and let you know if it's going to work. It tends to get a little more engagement, and really, yes, it is a message authenticity too, because that person is actually going to, as we do at Dean Houston, immerse themselves in that product.
So Jamie, you brought up an interesting point with a lot of like pro athletes. I mean, these are people who have been really influencers for a long time. Like, you brought up the great example of Michael Jordan and the Air Jordan brand. Like that was really a huge influencer campaign. I mean, not to blow influencer marketing out of proportion, but I think that's really what it was. Somebody who has a specialty or is really respected in an area, building and cultivating a brand and a personality.
What about sometimes your brand ambassadors can be even your customers? What about somebody who's like raving obsessed about you and your product? Like, how do you find those people? Because they're very organic, and trying to find them, they're already following you, they love your product. I feel like that is missing from the equation too, because those people sometimes create much more impact for the brand as well.
She's way ahead of us.
Yeah, wow. We get to that later on, but that's in the advanced course piece of this. Thank you for getting that out of the way, I guess. But that person might be called, what we refer to as a brand advocate. Somebody who's really promoting your brand. And my favorite thing I've ever seen is when we'll have somebody complain about a product and then an advocate jumps into the comments and says, "No, you're crazy. I love this product. They've never done anything but quality work." It's nice when they fight your battles for you. So Jamie and Anna, if I had to ask you, who do you think the first influencer was? What would be your answer? How did, what was the proto influencer that led us to this point? I'll accept answers from the crowd too. Who do you think the first influencer, or a group of influencers, I guess, more accurately, who do you think they were? What were they? The Paris Hilton and the Kardashians, that is good. They did lead a lot of influencing, through the aughts, but
go back a little further.
That's a little bit closer in time, actually, closer than you think. No, DJ. No, well, yeah, I guess Jesus, but I was not going to go that route specifically.
In keeping with Dale's theme of kind of ancient civilizations and planting these mighty oak trees, I think we need to go back a little further than Kanye and the Kardashians. And
what if I told you it was gladiators? They actually would promote local products like olive oil while they were fighting before they would go into battle. Popular gladiators who were, winning their fights. Obviously, they weren't losing, because I don't think they'd be able to promote olive oil if they lost any of those.
I think at that point it would be funeral services, maybe. I don't know.
That's dark, but yeah, also true. Even goes back to there was a tea set maker in England who made a specific set for the Queen. Or well, I guess the wife of the king at the time there was a king, not necessarily a queen, but they made tea for the wife of the king, and they said it had the royal seal of approval, and that's how they kind of sold their brand around town after that. The fashion piece, obviously Coco Chanel, one of my personal idols, really drove my fashion sense forward. And then you look at Paris Hilton, you look at Kim Kardashian, also in that fashion zone. And then, of course, athletes, actors, musicians, anybody who's, super famous because they're part of a sporting league, or that, they're going on world tours. They obviously are going to be big influencers. But with social media, we've seen more and more regular people be able to add their voice to the conversation in a really impactful and engaging way. So in terms of influencer marketing, you can see the results on a superficial basis. So how many likes did that post have? How many millions of followers does an influencer have? But, what's the value? And that's a question that Anna has always challenged us with, is what's the ROI? What is the value of what we're doing? And there really is a lot of value in this that you can kind of, draw back to when you're looking at influencer campaigns. So we'll start out with the big number. $14 billion, Jamie. 14 billion. What does that represent?
So what that represents is how many billions of dollars that are spent on these types of campaigns every year.
Well, close. It is the value generated by influencer marketing or projected value generated by influencer marketing in 2021 is $14 billion. I think that's up from 3 billion about five or 6 years ago.
And a large part of that has to do with COVID. Because of last year and so many things moved to an e-commerce or social commerce platform, eMarketer had originally scheduled 2021 to be about $8.5 billion in revenue for influencer campaigns, or that's what they would generate. But because of COVID, because we were all shopping from home and had nothing else to do with our stimulus checks, right? We pumped it back into the Amazons or back into products that we saw through social channels or through influencer campaigns that then we would all go to check the prices on everything else, right? So that's just where it starts. It's actually expected now. E-commerce or eMarketer has revamped a lot of its projections, and Sean, wasn't it like 25 billion in the next like 5 years or something?
Oh
like
yeah,
that?
it's looking to skyrocket and continue to grow. But obviously the value piece of it is not, the monetary value piece of it is not the only thing. That's not the only KPI that you're able to generate through influencer marketing. So one of the biggest advantages of influencer marketing, and this just goes to show, how big of a network you can create through social posts. You are drawing a certain crowd with your influencer posts, but the network that they can then pass it on to just gets exponential and exponential and exponential. And when it's someone they're following, they're probably going to trust them more than they trust a brand post, which can be a little bit, tricky for a brand, but because you have to give that control up, but it certainly is valuable. So we were talking earlier about how there's so many different types of influencers. There aren't only the influencers with millions of followers. And, Jamie, when you look at integrating these people into your strategy and your media mix, what are the considerations around size?
So first of all, let's define what the sizes are. Like as you can see here, 1 to 10,000 is a nano influencer, 10 to 50 micro, and you guys can read this on up. You see the star next to mid-tier, and that is the most common. The platforms or the people, the influencers, the brand ambassadors that have the most or that have the highest engagements are in that mid-tier, which is actually a very broad tier, but as you can see, as they go up, they get more broad. For us, it all ties back into the overall strategy, the overall goals and objectives of the client. There's always time. That's the big thing that everybody asks us. Oh, well, it's all about how many people can see this, right? No, not necessarily. If one of the things that you're trying to do is really hone in and target, and you have a very small budget, you're not going to get a lot of impressions. You're not going to get that high dollar, influencer. So you have to be more strategic in how you do it. And so that's why we look at like a nano influencer. So for someone like OPW, retail fueling, or for the car wash industry, those are pretty niche markets overall, right? So who you're targeting is a specific industry. So we're not going to have like a Michael Jordan. I mean, it would be great if he would, but we're not going to have the budget to be able to do that. So what
doing
do we
the Air Jordan with a nozzle?
Yeah, exactly. That would be cool. Can we make that happen?
Yeah, I think we might get sued if we tried to do that one.
Maybe.
But
so what we do is we have other tools, or we have other ways that we can utilize influencers through other media channels, or through a nano influencer that's going to be much more targeted. And what that's going to do is it's going to elevate your engagement rates. It's going to elevate, or it's going to increase your ROI. 1, your spend is going to go down, and 2, that smaller market means you're going to go after those people who are more likely to use the product.
Yeah, exactly. Is it more valuable to talk to, let's say, 5 million Harry Styles fans, or when you're trying to sell a fuel nozzle, or is it more important to talk to 50 people who run and operate a fueling station?
Well, and for a product launch, a lot of times though, you do want those larger numbers, or if you have more of a consumer facing product, product, you're going to want those larger numbers, those higher impression counts, larger reach, all the different terms that we use for that. But as you said, it does depend. And for our technical products, we do have those niche markets, and it is about being smart with our clients' money. We have to be good stewards, and we have to get those results for them. So it comes down to, is this an awareness campaign or is this a lead gen campaign? And so that is one of the ways that one of the many ways that we choose which type.
So Anna, be honest here. How nerve-wracking is it to hand over a campaign to an influencer?
It is scary, especially from the brand standard. I mean, you choose a certain influencer because of the fan base that they have, or their values align with your brand values. You love the way they speak, you love the way they engage with their audience. And then you're like, yes, these guys are awesome for us. But then they come in and they speak about your brand, and then you're almost limiting them. Well, you're not supposed to say it this way. Well, can you change it this way? So you almost put these railways around what they have and what they can say, when in reality, this is the reason why you chose them in the first place, is because they have that influence and they can talk to people in an authentic way. So giving that control over is something that as a brand you have to learn when you're dealing with these influencers, however small or however large they are.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest challenge, in a relationship between the ambassador or the influencer is, and the brand itself is, you want to make sure that the message aligns. And that's one reason, we encourage all of our clients to have those campaign standards, because we do give those, are the brand standards. We do give those to the influencers and say, we need to make sure that we adhere to these as closely as possible while still maintaining that authenticity. And the authenticity is what sells the product. It's not necessarily always the brand message or the image that's there, but it's the real authentic message that comes through from that person's voice. And that's a challenge, for us as the agency is, we have to balance that too. But, we want to serve the client, but we also have to make sure that we're allowing that influencer to say it in their own way.
And another scary thing is, if the influencer is like mega or celebrity status, it's almost like you run into a risk of, are they going to remember my product, or are they going to remember the celebrity who was talking about it? So choosing the right kind of tier of these influencers is also kind of important.
And that authenticity, a byproduct of that is trust and credibility. Obviously getting, several hundred likes on an influencer post or getting thousands of views, these are all awesome things. But at the end of the day, what brand, either, conversions, hopefully they end up buying from you. They go out to the store and buy your product, or they connect with the distributor, however your channel is set up. But, you also want to build the brand equity and trust in your brand. And this comparison right here, 61%, I believe this was a Shopify survey, 61% of social media users are more likely to trust brand promotions through influencers, whereas 38% trust brand posted content. So that's a pretty big gap between you posting on your own page and an influencer posting, and how much someone, who's just scrolling through their feed is going to take that post seriously. Another piece, and we were just talking about the celebrity part, you don't want to get overshadowed, right, Jamie?
Exactly. So Sean, we have a guy here that's one of our team members, right? And I mean, I think in Knoxville, Illinois, he probably qualifies as a celebrity. I know at Dean Houston that he does. But our very own Dean Houston, our very own Darren White, right? Like, he is seriously a one-man influencer.
He's really the internal influencer. Every single post that goes out for a client, every trade publication post, I see them in my feed all day, and there's Darren's face right next to it.
I mean, I don't even feel like the need to scroll. I just wait for it to say Darren White liked this, and then I just click like too. I mean, he makes it so easy for me.
And see, he fits that brand advocate position perfectly.
I know, Dale, I think we need to add another layer to Darren's title or something. It's like chief brand advocate or something. I don't know.
So, when I'm looking, obviously I'm going to take things that Darren is liking or sharing more into consideration than something a celebrity is sharing, because I know him, because we're chatting all the time via email or working on projects together. So this kind of breaks down here. Here's another survey, some more numbers to throw at you. So 46% of a 1,000-person survey, all social media users, said they're drawn to follow everyday people, versus 36 are drawn to follow, kind of a mix of everyday people. So they're, relatives, friends, whoever, and celebrities. And only 10.3% favor celebrities, meaning people are going on social media to see authentic things posted by people they know.
So what do you guys think is the reason that 46% of the people are drawn to everyday people? Nikki. Okay, they care about what else? What's another one? Eric Miller. That's the one. It's all the above. It's things you care about, it's authenticity, but those are the two big ones.
And especially if you are, someone in who's interested in a particular hobby, somebody who's a really big expert in that area. For example, we work with a lot of automotive influencers, and they do a really good job of doing really helpful DIY tips and videos while also integrating the product. So they're delivering value to the people who follow them on top of, promoting your product. So if you were to start thinking about, you're going to take that brave step forward like Anna took with us this year, getting really into influencer marketing, starting to hand your special prized product over to somebody not sure of what they will say about it or how they'll promote it, or if they'll use the branding correctly. You need, before you start on that journey, you need to find out where you fit in to the influencer space. And that's not just size, but that's niche interest, that's different target audiences, different affinity groups. I'm not totally up on my Google Analytics lingo. Jamie, can you explain what an affinity group is a little bit? Because we often see this as a really powerful tool to cross target.
Sure. So when we talk about affinities, think about your buyer personas. What are those people interested in aside from just what they do for a living or what their search patterns are or the websites that they visit, that are tied to their job or that are tied to those specific interests? So their affinities are things that go beyond, like, do they like sports? Do they like DIY? Do they like fashion or banking and those kinds of things? And those are all pieces that we have to consider when we're looking for influencers.
Yeah, and we see that in our activations with Fram, actually, with outdoorsy activities, pet lovers. Those are definitely some big cross sections of our following. So we try to meet them where they are as well, the things that they're genuinely interested in.
And that's a key to the strategy or the part of the planning process. And it's really where we kind of begin, right? There's all levels of this, but where you kind of fit in is, okay, finding those people that align not only with your values, as we tie this back to what we've been talking about the last 2 days, because the value system is incredibly important when you're talking about someone who's going to be a face of your brand. But you also, want to look at what their affinities are and what are they looking at beyond that? Because, it's all about connection. It's all about that person-to-person connection, even though it may be on a screen or whatever. It's still about that personal interaction, and what aligns you or what causes you to follow a specific person or want to buy a specific brand.
So before we jump into kind of the structure of influencer campaigns or what you need to think about, we have another quick poll question here. So thinking of it from a strategic perspective, how do you integrate influencers into your overall marketing strategy? I know Walter will absolutely love this question, being Mr. Strategy over there. So, are you excited? Are you ready? Just go all in. Why are we waiting? Why don't we start sending out products right now? Why don't we start getting influencers on the payroll, or are you feeling, a little bit skittish about it? Maybe you're not sure. And a dangerous, area you could fall into is, oh, do I just pick the most followed influencer you can find? And hopefully, Jamie and I rambling up here about what the sizes mean and everything, hopefully you can kind of see, we gave away the game on that one a little bit. You can see the flaws in why that may not be the best strategy. But yeah, and of course, we're in a room full of marketing professionals. Of course, they get the answer right here, overwhelmingly. Decide what you are looking to promote. What is the campaign and how does it fit within influencer? Don't go to influencer and then retroactively make up a reason to do it. Go into influencer because it is genuinely a place where you can meet your target audience.
Well, and it's also, how does it fit into your overall media mix? It's not just, okay, well, I have this product and I want an influencer to market it. Is, okay, how can I tie this into that holistic marketing or media mix that's ultimately part of the overall marketing mix?
And here's a little example, right as you're talking about it, Jamie.
Transitions are important, Sean. So when we talk about what is involved in influencer marketing, and it's only going to be as good as the other tactics that we utilize. If our other paid social messages aren't as good, if our ads aren't as good or whatever, then the influencer campaign isn't going to be as good. But having that holistic message, and you can see here, this is a cross section, and in my world, this is beautiful because it encompasses all things. But however, this is a slightly expensive media plan, and but the reason that we're having so much success with the influencers as part of this campaign and part of the overall, as we're generating traffic, as we're generating interest, we're seeing lifts in sales, is because it does have this holistic message that resonates. And that's truly an attribute to the creative team, to the content team, to the web team for helping provide that support. But this type of media plan, and even as far as influencer goes, I think, most of you, if you work in one of the execution teams, you've actually been part of an influencer campaign already, whether you realize it or not, anytime we're talking about some of these social activations. So, as we look at the influencer where it is, yes, it looks like a small piece, but it's actually has a much larger implication than a lot of these other tactics.
And my friends to my right up here on the stage absolutely love Strategy Land. And we could talk about strategy all day, but let's take an actual example of how this plays out, how this chart that's built around campaigns and year-long promotions of the brand and products, how that actually plays out in an influencer activation. Volume on this.
Hey guys, welcome back to our killer.
So this is an activation, Jamie,
C5 project, man. We just put on
did a little bit more work
150 horsepower
together
upstairs in the engine with cylinder heads, camshaft, and everything. I'll see if I can't help but make a mess here as we work our way down from brakes to finally changing the fluid so we can go right to the track. Let me show you what we're going to put on for a filter. Now, we went with the Fram Ultra Synthetic, and the reason is it's got some pretty cool stuff on the insides. Now, if you look over here, right, ultra synthetic, it says right on the box, 20,000 mile capable. Now, you always want to check with your OEM and make sure your vehicle can go with that particular specs, but this filter's made for the goods. Now, I got a little curious, what's inside here? What makes it last that long? How do you get that filtration level up to 99+%? So I cut one open. Now, if you've never seen inside a filter before, right, clearly the mating surface and the seal. And then here is an anti-drain back, so that's going to sort of seal up against these outer perimeter holes until you blow pressure through it, and it'll lift and open. Now, what's nice is this is a good high-quality silicon steel here. I've seen nitrile ones are probably a little bit downgraded, so we're great so far. And if I pull the insides out, we can see relative to sort of a baseline filter, more of the fiber end caps, which is fine for a typical daily driver, but this has the steel end cap construction, so it's going to be nice and solid for those higher oil pressures and spikes, but also you can look at the media difference, right? I would call this non-technically more of a paper media, If you flatten it out, it's fairly thin, but this is that thicker, heavier synthetic blend media, and that's what's going to trap all those particles for 20,000 miles. But not 95%, not 99%, but the 99+% rating. Now, this is going to be great for top performance on new engines, but also maximum protection on some of your older engines as well. Now, this Sure Grip is a nice, simple way to put it on, but also, especially when you have a hard time getting tools in there, you can get a good grip on this thing to pull it back off. So don't forget to put a little bit of lube on here. Don't put it on too tight. Usually touch it maybe 3/4 turn or so. And man, we're ready to top this thing off. Follow on.
Our buddy there did a great job of giving, a quick tip and explaining the insides and the actual, function of the filter. And Anna, can you point out any of the errors in that? Were there, how many errors were you tallying?
No, I want to hire this guy as a sales guy. That's why
he was on top of it. Yeah.
So this is one of those integrations. This is actually a piece of the media plan. This isn't actually an influencer, believe it or not. I mean, he is, but he isn't. In this case, it's he's from Two Guys Garage. This was a program that we had for Premiere Week this year on the Discovery Channel. And these types of integrations are yes, they are an influencer tactic. But they are more reasonably priced. And a lot of times they do reach a higher audience, but it's also a more targeted audience. And what we mean by that is, if you're not interested in building cars, if you're not interested in cars in general, then you're not going to watch this program. So it's a worthwhile investment from a media standpoint, and it also serves as, hey, it aligns that brand with a person who's known for their automotive skills, and it also has someone that knows the product, knows cars. He's talking about it, so it's his authentic message. We didn't write that script. We gave him talking points, and we spent a couple of hours filming it and kind of watching from afar, which that was kind of interesting to do in the middle of a pandemic. Have people in 3 different locations trying to shoot a video and get the script right. But that was actually first take, believe it or not, once we went through it the full time. So it was really great, an integration, and it's done a lot of good things for the brand.
And on the right is a quite a different activation, but for Fram, the same brand. And when we talk about target audiences, we were looking at a cabin air filter, which has a slightly different target audience than your traditional DIY automotive, automotive enthusiast, someone who's doing their own oil changes. Generally, people are doing their regular maintenance on their vehicle themselves. We're trying to reach a slightly different demographic there. So when you see kind of these side by side comparisons, it tells you that you can go into very different lanes with this stuff.
Well, it also has a kind of an impact, or your buyer personas, right? And when you have a large consumer facing brand, or even some of our more targeted clients, or our niche market clients in the technical product space, we have to be mindful of who our audience is and who we want to reach. And we understand that for those niche, or for those technical products, there is a niche market. So we want to go after those, which you'll see here in a minute. But for our larger consumer facing or D2C, as we've, I guess, coined that, those are where we have to kind of look at the different generations, or look at the different buyer personas, and make those decisions for who we're going to work with from an influencer and an ambassador standpoint.
So Anna, could you give us a little bit of insight about how that Fresh Breeze and True Air, those cabin air filter product lines, how those differ from an oil filter and the oil filter customer?
First of all, it's something people don't even know that you can change them very easily on your own. Another thing, they're very good for you in terms of cleaning, the air in your car. But the biggest difference is who you're talking to and who's going to care about that indoor air quality. So finding that gap, you know, how are, first of all, these products different, and those sub-segments of those people that you need to find. And then where do these people play? Meaning, where can I really put this message forth to be understood what the product is? Because it's sometimes hard to explain it, and it's hard to explain that you need it. But then those who live it, who have small children, who care about the air in the car, it needs to smell nice. It needs to clean. A True Air is a truly revolutionary new product that even kills the bacteria inside the car and protects your family. So that's a whole different segment. It's not your regular guy, my husband, who changes oils or spark plugs. It's me, who I want my car to smell fresh. I want to protect my family. So it's a different type of person that we need to talk to.
Yeah, and we definitely chose, you know, someone who kind of hits on a much more fabulous angle than our friend over at Two Guys Garage. Her name her name's Mandy, but she goes by the handle Sparkle Shiny Love, because that is the title of her lifestyle blog. And she wrote up a whole article, and, you know, was hitting on really some of those key points, that health concern, that and it's a very accessible repair for anyone to do, whether or not you have a lot of automotive DIY experience.
I think you bring up a great point, Sean. You know, it's also different formats of influencer. It's not just about YouTube videos or Instagram posts, but it's also blogs, and it's, you know, it's written content, it's video content, it's imagery, you know, it's infographics, and those are the things, you know, that we also need to keep in mind as we're looking at strategies and ways to implement this tactic.
And Jamie, earlier you mentioned technical products and how that, you know, we focused on ways of making technical products fun and exciting and engaging, and really creating content around them that's going to be relevant for the people using those products.
Yeah. So as, you know, we look at tactics that we can implement, and we look at ways to test new things, right? So one of the things that we did for this year is we knew that one of the goals of PSG was to increase their follower bases for all of their social channels. How can we do that? Well, we partner with other relevant, authentic, knowledgeable sources. And sometimes that is through individuals, sometimes it's through overall platforms, sometimes it's through individual publications. And the post on the left is, you know, from Pumps and Systems magazine. And if you work on PSG, you know that Pumps and Systems.
Show of hands, you know, seeing influencer marketing on the docket for today. Who thought we were going to talk about Pumps and Systems magazine? Okay, no. But really, they are an influencer in this space. They're, you know, delivering educational, relevant, you know, product focused content.
Well, and sometimes it's not even product focused. Sometimes it's the educational content that we produce for our clients that we're known for, right? And it's the reason, and I know we give Darren a lot of grief, but, you know, he did launch the publicity in the media, and, you know, we're successful. Media is successful because we built a solid foundation of publicity. And it's very often that Maggie and I and Lauren get emails that say, hey, can you guys produce this because we have this opportunity, or do you guys have something? We have this opening. And it's because we have things like this. We have that educational content that we can use. And so in essence, to a lot of our trade partners, we are in fact educational influencers as an agency, because we are very often their first call when they need content.
And yeah, the post on the right here, Jamie was a lot more involved in the strategy behind Pumps and Systems, and has a good relationship with their team over there. And the one on the right was more of an influencer activation that wasn't even necessarily planned out. We happened to be at the WPMA show in Vegas for OPW and some of the different operating companies. And so for Civicon, we were trying to tell a product story, a focus story on a tank truck fuel delivery system that, you know, helps minimize errors, helps ship fuel shipments get there, and in the correct, you know, helps people deliver fuel correctly, helps those drivers out.
So the main difference between these two posts is one is paid and one is not. And the Pumps and Systems is in fact paid. But the reason that we did that was to help grow the follower base and to help increase engagement through those channels. And also by aligning Wilden with Pumps and Systems, on a social channel, we're hitting a different audience. One of the things that we look at from a metric standpoint is who are we hitting? What are our demographics? And we know that younger audiences resonate more with some of these types of tactics. And so, it's for us, it was a no-brainer. First of all, it's cost effective. This is like the cheapest ad that's had the highest return that we've had all year. So we know that in 2022, we'll be going to the PSG team going, hey guys, we need to do more of these. But the reason that both of these are side by side is because it does take both the organic and the paid. And so it's the value in, once again, that holistic message.
And the only cost to the post on the right was me bugging this poor guy for, I don't know how many days of the show I went over there, and I was tipped off by the guys at Civicon. Oh, hey, they have our full system installed. You should go get some pictures and some videos. And so I saw him doing demos for customers. I said, hey, you want to do that one more time, but on camera? He's like, I don't know. I don't know what to say, but he's an unlikely influencer, but he's someone who's trusted. He's someone who works for an equipment supplier. So people are going to look at him as, maybe slightly biased if you prefer Civicon, but they're going to look at him as much less biased and more authentic than just something coming directly from Civicon.
And that's a great point, Sean, is like, you want to align the brand, or you want to ask those people to give that kind of feedback whenever you can, because one, it is authentic, but two, we all have a layer of authenticity. We're, as Dale says, we're building an organization of all leaders, but if we have social channels, if we have friends, we're all really influencers. And in this space, if someone is known, or if it's a company that's long established, and we can get them to talk about our clients' products, or, the client themselves says, hey, I want you to talk to this distributor or this end user. Those are the things that really resonate globally for us.
And so I'm going to, I love having my strategy people on the stage, because I'm going to toss another grenade over the wall here. I would love to hear, from both of you about the KPIs here. We talked a lot about engagement, authenticity, trust, but how do you really measure if an influencer campaign is successful or not?
So Anna, what do you judge us by?
It's always going to be the outcome. It's always going to be the outcome, and what was the great, how many greens did we get back? But no, you guys are right. There's a lot more ways to measure this, and it all starts with that strategy. What is the part of this? What part of influencer are you trying to promote? Brand new? Is it a new brand? Is it a new product with the established brand? Are you trying to repair maybe a theme that exists about your product or your brand out there? So you have to approach it differently. And we're lucky in terms of First Brands that we do have a lot of these resources right now to track the brand metrics and see how the brand performed before. We use social listening to make sure that what people are saying and how's that sentiment moving after you engage with an influencer who's got a fan base, and they start talking and giving your product the time of the day to really make sure that all the nonsense that was out there is now relevant, that it's no longer a nonsense, but it's true product. So what we do, and again, it's part of overall strategy. So you get to really get those KPIs from, and I hate vanity metrics. I hate likes. I hate an engagement. I'm starting to hate too. But how do you measure that? It's really how many people are coming to your site from that specific influencer, and if it's a new product, especially, or an e-commerce brand where you can actually measure those specific codes that you give to the specific influencer. There's a specific landing page that you send them. All of that at the end of the day matters because it is part of the grander scheme of things. So there are other ways to measure success. And like I said, at the end of the day, when you do have those brand measures later on to really see how much you moved your brand from that original benchmark, you see that overall, and again, influencer is not kind of one-time thing. You can't just engage one time with the person and then forget about it. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a consistency throughout. So we cannot make plans just for this year. We have to make plans that span maybe 2 years, and then we can really see the benefits of working with the specific person and see the insights and perceptions of our consumers changing.
Yeah, that's the other thing is, there might be a little lift, and lift is good, but it's that incremental, that steady incremental increase that is most important, because what we want to talk about, Fram and Autolite are two examples. They're legacy brands, and they have a legacy for a reason, right? They're longstanding, they're quality, and that's the kind of thing that we want to align with. Those are the influencers and the ambassadors that we want to align these brands with, but we don't see those things overnight. Those are steady messaging. Those are consistent messaging throughout, and those are what we ultimately talk about, the value of a connection. And ultimately it's about the conversion. It's about the lifetime value of that person, that first impact or first introduction they had to the product may be through an influencer, or it may be, from a social post. And so, those are the things that we look at. We're not just looking at the person that walks in and buys something the one time. We want to create that long lasting value for them.
And so I think something Anna brought up was really interesting too. We have to plan this out so far in advance, and not only because of strategy and how we, track measurements and adjust our, our goals and what we're targeting, but influencers can be kind of tricky to pin down.
Depends on how smart you are, Sean.
So say you decide influencer marketing fits in your budget, you're ready to take that step forward. You have a list of influencers who fit your target markets, or publications, whoever's doing the influencing. You have a list you want to reach out to and really get that partnership talk started. How do you go about that? How are you going to get that conversation going? And one of the key things that an influencer will definitely notice when you reach out is how you're offering to compensate them. And so even though social media has made influencing really accessible to even, everyday people, even the everyday folks are becoming professionalized. They are expecting to have some sort of compensation. If you're going to them, talking about the reach of your social platforms, or you're going to them talking about, hey, here's a discount code for 20% off, this particular filter, what are they going to say to that? They might say nothing, I guess.
Hard pass, swipe left. No, I believe I'm going to leave you on red.
Exactly. When you're talking to an influencer, much like, a conversation on a dating app, you really don't want to get ghosted. So I'm really happy to see, I'm happy to see that C was the most answered one in this poll, or the most chosen answer in this poll, because you want to make sure you're going in both on the same page about what's expected, because it will make every other conversation much easier. Jack? She just wants a Pepsi, I thought. I thought that was it.
Yes. The answer is, as Jason tells us always, it depends, or maybe, yeah. But typically free exposure, because people are always really growing, their base, their follower base. Free product Yeah, especially if it's like a startup or something that's getting started that like, I'm like, yeah, I'm really excited about that.
Or
There's
if
a
it's
lot
like
of,
a charity
yeah,
piece, like I've
yeah.
seen companies tie that into cause marketing almost. For example, there are some different auto repair shops that also work as skills programs for youth dealing with different hardships, whether it's homelessness or something like that, where they have a skills workshop and then they'll donate free product to actually serve a good.
But yes, that's true. But there's there's different worlds there, right? So typically your nano influencers are not going to do a whole lot of cause. I mean, unless it's something like specific to them, such as if you have a family member that is afflicted by something, or something that you're very passionate about. One of our influencers is a race car driver, and she's very, very heavily involved in animal rights and in animal, humane societies and things like that. So every city she goes to, she'll go do a promotion of that, and she does that as kind of that is a free or an exchange thing, but that's part of her brand too. So that is one area, if that's kind of part of your brand. But typically your nano or your nano influencers, your smaller, your micros, aren't as actively involved in your cause marketing as your macros and your megas. And once you get to the mega status, they don't need free exposure. They don't need the free product. They're like, show me the money, right? Like Jerry Maguire's out there wanting his cut too. So, those are things that you have to take into consideration when you're working with influencers.
And like we said earlier, if you don't come to the table with the right offer, you could get ghosted, or left on red, but even worse, they could screenshot your offer and put it up saying, because there are some influencers, that are really authentic, who are, kind of a little more raw and gritty, who will definitely take an opportunity to, poke fun at a brand who's, woefully unprepared to get into the space.
So you want to be fair, when you start thinking about it, and budget has to be a consideration, just like everything else that we talk about, right? Budget is always a consideration. But you want to be fair. You want to, if it's going to align something, you want to think about the things that you want them to do, the frequency that you want them to post, what platform, the number of followers that they have, and those types of things. So you want to be mindful, and it all does tie back into that strategy and that overall goal setting.
And then if you want to continue relationship, it is building a relationship. So you don't want to come really and make a fool out of yourself either.
Yeah, exactly. You have to look at it, as a real partnership. Again, they're becoming much more professionalized. So even if it's somebody making videos out of their garage, you have to give them the respect of the level of content creator they are. So another key piece before you get out on the influencer, you head down that trail, you start creating influencer campaigns as part of your strategy. It all begins from within. Make sure your goals, the specific ways you're allowed to talk about your product, the specific value proposition of what your product or service, or, even an educational piece of content, what that brings to the table before you send it out into the world for an influencer to figure that out for you.
Well, and the other thing is, influencer can't be something that you start and stop. It's got to be something that is consistent. It has to be long. You have to be in it for the long haul. It's not something you're like, oh, for this quarter, I'm just going to focus on influencer. It's not going to work. It's actually going to give you a negative reputation with influencers and with your follower base.
And because Jamie's gone all California on us, I figured, I would talk about making sure your marketing chakras are aligned before you really get out into the field. Make sure you're centered. So, with that, we've been rambling a lot. We've been forcing Anna to, give honest feedback about us, which, I'm sure she'll expand on later. I'm sure she'll have some questions about KPIs later. But, does anyone have any curiosities, questions, or just, about the inner workings of influencer? What's the reason to even do it?
Paul. So again, that kind of ties back into strategy. What's your end game? Are you going with more of an awareness? So if you're going with awareness, you want to go with that broad reach, right? Using a specific influencer or using a specific ambassador or person to do something, you know, you're honing in on those affinities or those in market segments, or, you know, those people that follow that person specifically, or that industry, that publication, whatever tactic that you choose. But for some of those larger scale things, if it's like a product launch, like if you're Nike, or if you're, you know, you're one of those large consumer clothing or personal care brands, then that's probably more in a realm that you're going to want to go. But if you're doing like a specific product that's going to reach industrial partners, or, you know, be more technically product focused, then you want to use those more niche people.
And when you're reaching out to a single influencer too, you're usually doing so for a very specific purpose. And they're not going to necessarily tell the same story as another influencer might. Even between, you know, automotive influencers, there are people who do basic oil changes, but then there are people who like to build race cars. So it really runs the gamut, and you want to make sure that the message is right for that audience.
You're looking at me when you say build race cars. So yeah, so to your point, Paul, you know, we have a campaign, and we don't just have one influencer, but we have 15 for the single campaign, and they all serve a different purpose because they're targeting a different audience, or they have a large follower base on a specific platform, right? So we're talking about generationally speaking, for targeting people. You know, we know that the Gen Zers, for example, like their TikTok, they like their Instagram better, whereas the people my age and older are going to be more likely to engage with something they see on Facebook or potentially Instagram.
I like the way you said those Gen Zers with their TikToks and their
I also acknowledge being older and using Facebook more. So, you know,
you do fit that demographic.
I do.
I'm only saying this because Anna's in between us, and Jamie won't be able to get over here in time.
Okay, guys.
Stephen has a question. Anna, you want to take that one?
Sure. It's again, how big of a fan base do they have in what we want? How do we align together with the product and with the mission? And will they be able to authentically sell our product to their fan base? So can we borrow their fan base to bring our message forth? And another very important thing is, you know, surprises can happen with influencers, but due diligence, you do a lot of screening. You go through all their platforms. You see what brands did they work with before? How did they work? How did that work out? Do they follow or some causes that you do not want to be aligned with, you know, your brand with? So there's a lot of research, not just for audience and obvious, you know, making sure that your values align, but is there something there that can come back to haunt you later on because they were, you know, affiliated with somebody else? So it's always the due diligence and making sure that you understand who that person is and that you like everything that they're doing.
And to take it one step further, this is not a fast process. Lauren likes to joke. And one of Lauren's favorite activities, and she won't mind me sharing this because she owns it very openly.
She's not here anyway, so go right ahead.
No, no, seriously, Lauren calls it stalking. We call it due diligence, just because it sounds better. But Lauren will do a deep dive. We partner with other agencies. We're gonna dig into you. We might be contracting with you just on Instagram, but we're also checking your Twitter, checking your LinkedIn, checking your Facebook, because we want to know who you are. We're going to do a deep dive Google search on you, and we want to find out, because the last thing that we want to have to do is call Anna and go, I'm sorry, but this person like did this back in this day and oops, so we want to make sure that before we even sign that first contract, before we even, make that first initial offer or contact, that we know that these people are aligned with who we are, who our clients are, what their brand are, what the goals are, as Anna said, and the other criteria. So this process, I believe, for this large campaign that we have going on right now, the vetting process was 6 to 9 months for all of these candidates. And so we did all of our homework. So we hopefully don't have any surprises, but that's a big part of it.
All right. Well, I guess I'll take this one. So, I mean, they are a lot of times they'll have a tag that it's a paid promotion. So it will be pretty upfront that they're tied in with your brand. And obviously, if they're, posting, for example, Mandy, it's pretty obvious to tell that she was promoting a particular Fram product because she promotes a lot of products, but there are different like outfit of the day posts, and then there's her with Fram, like such an easy installation. I loved it, loved the product, and the air in my, in the cabin of my vehicle is clean now. So once they get that post out there, you want that post to do most of the legwork, but you can also amplify it a bit and kind of give them a nod by sharing it to your page. A lot of times we work with influencers on Instagram, so we'll share it to our story and kind of promote the content they're putting out. They have a great DIY fix for you, or they gave this filter a try, see what they had to say, that kind of thing, to tease the content a little bit. So we're pushing more traffic their way because we want it, we want it to be symbiotic at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the process is very much like the existing process for creating a social post, right? We don't necessarily tell them what to say. We just say, hey, we'd like for you to include this. And as part of the agreements, most of the time they bring it back to us, or they're required to bring things back to us, whether that's in the creative brief or in the contract itself, that, hey, we want to see this before it goes live, because we need to make sure that it fits in with our legal language, and there are so many considerations that we have to go through for these things. So the process is kind of lengthy, and this isn't something I believe from when we first contracted with our first influencer till the time that they made that first post was 30 days. Because we had to go through multiple rounds of revisions to get it right, to get the images right, to get the message right. So it is a lengthy process to get this going. Now, once we kind of get in the flow of things, it's gotten faster now. But those initial things are, you have to be accessible, because those influencers have small windows of times that they can talk to you. So we have to be hyper vigilant in, okay, this person responded, I have like 20 minutes to get this, done to hit the deadlines and things. So, that's another piece of it, is like, it is a process, and it requires a lot of collaboration between us and the brand, or us and the client.
Jack again. And then Chris, I saw you.